Okay guys, so today we are going to be carrying on working on our island game, but there is one problem. If you watched the first episode and you saw when we started our project, or you didn't see me create the project, but when I created the project, I created the 3D universal render pipeline, I think it was, project. And that was a bit of a problem because most of the assets on the Unity assets store haven't really caught up with that. So they're still using the old, they were still made for the old one. So I had to delete that project and create a new project using the old one, because I did manage to fix the materials, but I figured out that it fixes most of them, but every now and then when we go and import something from the asset store, we're just gonna have to do that over and over again, and sometimes it probably won't work. So I made the decision to just, before we get any further into the game, let's just delete this and let's start from fresh using the normal old render pipeline, the default one that you create with a normal 3D project, so that we shouldn't really run into any problems in the future and we don't really have to worry about that anymore. So today because of that, now we have to really start from scratch. So if we jump into the project, I have tried to go back to where we were in the project in the last episode, but I can't really remember what assets I imported, and I could just go and watch the video, but I don't want to do that. So we are going to start off from scratch, and I think I may have downloaded or imported the wrong assets for this game, but we will leave that for now and we will focus on something else. So before we go and design our little island, I want to just try and get a character controller working in the game so that we can, when we want to test things, we can actually move around in the scene and there's something to control. Because when we go and press play now, all we get is a side view of our terrain. So we don't really want that. We want to be able to control some kind of character in our scene. So to do that, we're not going to code out anything. In fact, we are going to cheat a little bit and go to the asset store, because this is what you should use it for. If you can't use it, why not? So let's go to the Unity asset store and we can try and see if we can find a decent character controller for a 3D person type character. So I do want to use a free one, because who wants to pay for something? So it looks like I've used this one before, so let's see. This one might work for this game. So we want to be able to move around, which that is doing. We also want to be able to, okay, so you can sprint as well. That's good. It looks like you can climb chairs. Don't know what that is. I'm not sure. Why did I say chairs? Stairs. So you can climb up some stairs. Let's see, what are these? You can modify things. You can zoom, sprint, crouch. You have a sprint bar. Okay, so that's cool. And you have that dynamic head bobbing thing, which is not really useful, but we'll take it. We'll open that up in Unity, and then we can see if we can use it in our game. So we should be able to use it. So where is it? I think it's this one. So we need to go and download that. Shouldn't be too big, I don't think. I guess not. So that's downloaded. Now we can go and import it. So what do we want? Okay, so first person controller, demo scene. I don't really want the demo scene, so I'm going to go and untick that, and then we'll just keep the rest. So we only really want to import what we need. Otherwise our game just gets too big and it's not really necessary. So let's go back into Unity. So here we should have our what's it called, character controller, but clearly not. Did I import it into the wrong? I imported it into the wrong project, so I've got two projects open. All right, so let's do that again. In this project, I'm just going to change the size of this brush because that's massive. So in this project, let's go and import that again. Package manager. So I think it is my assets. It should be in here. We should be able to find it in here. So let's see which one it was. Modular first person. Okay, so that is this one. So import that, and then we'll get rid of our demo scene and then import that into here. Okay, so now we should be able to drag and drop this into our scene, and hopefully we get to move around. So we can close that. So here we have our first person controller. So can we drag? Yeah, so here is our first person controller. Okay, so that's not what I wanted. So let's see, maybe we just have to drag this, what's called that. Let's read this. How to use, including this package creation, placing controller into Unity scene. Simply drag the provided prefab into your scene hierarchy. The prefab must have all the given components to work: a collider, rigid body, and first person controller script. Okay, so let's just play this and see what happens. Okay, so nothing happens, but we do have a few. There are 2 audio listens, and okay, so that's fine. We'll get rid of that. So we have our first-person controller, but I'm gonna just add in a 3D capsule for now, and we will use this as our. We'll pretend it's a person or some kind of character that we control. So here is our capsule, and we will move this up. I think it's 0.5. Is that on the? It might need to be 1. Let's try 1. So okay, so that should sit on our terrain. So that's good. The next thing we can do, instead of having it in this corner, we can go and. Well, let's see. Our terrain is, how big is our terrain? I don't really know. But we'll put our terrain at not, so that needs to stay at 0. The X needs to be at -100. Okay, so I'm guessing that block is 100, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this, I'm guessing, needs to be at -500. So that's should be in the middle, and then on the z-axis, this should also be -500. Okay, so now that should put our capsule in the middle of the scene, which it pretty much does. That's good. So that's perfect. Now on our capsule, we will go and drag that onto there. So let's just see if this works. I don't really know if that's what you're supposed to do, but we still can't move that. So we need to get rid of a audio listener. So first let's delete this. Okay, so place a controller in your Unity scene. Simply drag the provided prefab into your scene hierarchy. Okay, so let's do that. We'll bring it back in. So it has a rigid body. Okay, camera, first person controller. Does it have a space for our? Let's just add it onto our capsule. So here we will add in our first person controller and see if that does anything. So can we move? We still can't move it. So unassigned reference to, what is it? First person. Okay, so camera, will drag our camera into there. Maybe that's what it is. Player camera, yeah. So does it move now? It still doesn't move. First person controller has not been assigned. What? It has. First person controller. We have our camera, and then we have zoom, camera joint. We'll disable that and see if that works. We still have a little bit of an error there, so let's see that. Unassigned reference exception. We're still getting that. What's that from? Okay, so clearly that does not work. So we'll delete that, and then we can start this again. It would probably have been easier to just download or import the demo scene and drag and drop. But we'll drag this into our hierarchy. So here is our first person controller. There's our joint, player camera, and then that. So I think we can, let's just delete our main camera and see what happens. So if we press play, hopefully that works now. Okay, so we can move around. Okay, so there we have it. It's working now. So we can move around the scene by looking with our mouse. You can see if I move up, you can see that in the middle of our screen, I'm pointing to the middle of the screen, but you can't really see that. In the middle of the scene over here somewhere, we have like a target, so to point where we're facing. And then you can move using the A, W, D, and S keys. We move back and forth, so that's good. We should set up a controller. That's what I'm probably gonna do in the next episode. We'll set up a PlayStation controller so that we can use that to control our character. But that's working nicely. So now let's go and start working on our island. So we've got our first-person controller, which is fine. Cool. So in our assets, we will. Okay, so here we have, what's this, hand painted grass. Okay, so let's go and start working on our terrain. So if we go to our scene view, you can see this is going to be our island, and we probably will change the size of it later, depending on if we want it bigger or smaller. But for now, we will start off with this. So I'm going to create some elevated terrain here. Okay, so we need to go and change our brush to, what was it? Nope. Paint terrain, set height, smooth height, stamp terrain, raise or low terrain. Okay, so we want to raise it a little bit, but we don't want it to be. Let's just do this quick to see which one looks better. So we'll make this a little bit bigger. That one's nice and smooth, so we could probably use that one. That's a bit too pointy. That's also I think that's a bit too smooth. That's a bit weird. We have a star one. That's kind of cool actually, but that's kind of stupid. Okay, so we will stick with this one. I think it was. So let's go and do all of this. So I'll put that back to how it was, and then we can start painting on our terrain. So because this is going to be an island, we're going to have water surrounding the entire island. So therefore, the outside of the island should really be flat, because it's going to be a beach. Well, not the whole thing. We'll add like rock cliffs and stuff later on, but for now we'll keep it all flat. But we want to have some kind of different terrain around the island. So we can do that, I think. So make this a bit smaller, something like that, where this lowers, and then what am I doing? If we lower the opacity, I think that stops it from raising it that much. Where's our character controller? Okay, so our character controller is that's so annoying. Our player sprint bar, no. Have we reset our player? Yeah, we have. So where is our terrain? And our player is at y is equal to 2. So why is our player moved all of a sudden? Anyway, we'll figure that out later. But here you can see that we've increased the height of some of the terrain, which is looking a little bit strange. I don't really know how to make a good looking island. I think it's just random. So let's just add some height to this quick. Something like this. We'll keep that all like a quite biggish island. Oh, not island, but beach setup. And then here we can have like something like that. I think that's pretty much, that should be it. So we'll have a beach over here along this coast here, and then a little bit of like a coast area here, like a shallow water bit over there. And then the rest, we'll probably add some neighboring terrain later on, but for now we'll keep it like this. Something like that. And then we can go and change our brush a little bit and make it a little bit bigger. And then just give this some height in different areas like that. And then bring it up a little bit. Something like that maybe. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the opposite and just, I don't know, something like this maybe. Have like a little bit of like a water. I don't know, it looks cool. I don't really know what I'm doing right now, to be honest. Just trying to make the island look like an island. Alright, so the next thing we would have to do is to add some textures to it. So in our textures folder here, I don't know if I have any beach sand. So let's go and look. So we have clay. We don't really want our island to look like clay. What else do we have? We have, these are all dirt. What's light dirt? We could probably, let's try one of these. We'll just use it for now. So on our terrain, let's go and add in some new paint texture. So we'll add this one. This is plaster sand. It looks quite, well, it looks okay. So we'll go and add that in. And then, oh, we forgot to do, so we need to change to paint terrain, and then we need to go and create a new layer, and then we'll use this one. So that makes our entire scene or our entire terrain that color, but we can change the rest of it by creating a new layer. So let's scroll down to another layer. So let's use this one. It's a little bit darker, but we don't want it to be a bit too dark. So here's our terrain. Also, we don't want this to be a square. So let's undo that, and then we will add this one. Let's make it a bit smaller, and then turn down the opacity, and let's just paint this on a little bit. So this is going to be our terrain. This probably looks absolutely terrible, but we'll go start somewhere. And then let's just make our sand very, very white. So I did download this white layer, and I know sand is not really that white, but we're going to use it for our beaches for now. So we'll make this a little bit bigger, and then let's just make our beach along the coast completely white. Something like that. Make this white. And then over here, we'll make all of this white. So now that we've got some kind of beach in our setup, let's go and fix this bit. Make all of that white, like that, and then also around here. So now you can see the outline of where our beach is and where the terrain starts to get some height. So this is going to be our island for now. We'll make that a little bit white over there, so we can lower that later on in the series. But that's pretty much it for our island. Even though it's a weird shape, we need to go and put our player on top of, well, first of all, let's go and move our player onto our actual island. So where is our player? Are we above or below? Why can we not play the game? Let's play the game and see. You're probably going to fall out. Okay, so we're not even on the terrain yet. So this needs to come this way. Is that on it? Okay, so that is on it, but clearly we have no collider. So we do have a collider on there, and our terrain also has a terrain collider, but they are clearly not colliding. So let's go to, I think it's build settings, player settings. Where is it? Physics. So our layer mask, everything collides with everything, so that's a bit weird. So we need to figure out why our player is not colliding with our terrain. Also, I don't like the fact that I can't really see where our player is. We need to go and get rid of this canvas thing. So we don't need our sprint bar. We can get rid of that. Open our prefab. We can get rid of our sprint bar. We don't need that. What is this? We don't need that. We don't need that. So that should be, so I think that's pretty much it. So let's double click on it. Okay, so here now we have our capsule. We can see where we are. Oh, that's probably why, because we were actually inside our mountain. So if we do this, we should land on our, there we go. So now you can see we have our island and we also have our player. So you can see we can sprint around the island and we can walk around everything. So let's go out of this and let's place our player on our, on our beach, so we can see what the island looks like. So let's place this over here. A bit more, a little bit more, somewhere over here. Okay, so that I think should be on our beach. So we'll put our player over here and then that way. So now when we play the game, it should fall down to our beach, which we do. The sand is a little bit bright. I'm going to change that. Okay, so now that we've got that done, let's go out and then on our controller, I'm just going to change this to 1 so that when we start the game, we don't fall into our island. So you can see now that this does not look that great because the sand is way too bright. And also we need to create some water because we want the water to come up to here somewhere so that we don't, like the horizon just doesn't just disappear into, like it looks like it never ends because the brightness of the white and the sky box. So we'll fix that later on, but let's see what's happening here. So object reference not set to an instance of an object. Which one though? It's probably, we don't need, actually we'll leave that for now. It's probably something to do with sprint bar, but we will ignore that for now. Sprint first person controller line 425. So let's open this up and see if we can just solve this error. So 425 sprint bar, yeah. So this has got to, because we deleted our sprint bar out of our game, we no longer use it. So we need to get rid of it. So where sprint, let's change this to false. Use sprint bar to false. Let's see if that works. Actually, I'm just gonna comment that out and see where we have this error, and then we can go down here and try and fix it. Handle sprint bar. If use sprint bar is true, so if we use sprint bar and unlimited sprint, and let's just comment this out, and then where else? If use sprint bar, okay, comment that out. We don't want to do any of, we don't want to set that to active. We don't want to resize the whatever that is, and we don't want to set that to active. So that should handle our issue. So we saved that. Let's go back here and then see, clear that, and then we can, why can't I go back to the game? Clearly we can't do that. So let's go back and uncomment what we just commented out. Sprint bar. Save that. So that hopefully that should handle these problems. Okay, so those are gone. So now let's play the game, and then okay, we can't play it. 161. What's now? What's the problem now? 161, which is here. Crash object. Okay, well first, before we do any of that, why can I not? Okay, there we go. So let's see. This. Let's play it and see what's happening. Okay, so our game still works. We can deal with that issue later. So that's fine. But you can see how big the island is now that we actually have a player in it. We probably should make it a little bit smaller, to be honest. We'll see what it looks like when we go and add in some water around it, so that we can actually see the difference between the horizon and these like the skybox, as well as the water that surrounds the island. But we'll leave that here for today, and then probably in the next episode we'll get back to working on our cube maze game, because we've given that one a little bit of a break. We need to get back to that, and we will also be starting a brand new game probably sometime during this week or next week, probably to do with also very similar to our 3D cube game, but instead of a maze game, it's going to be a cube that you have to rotate on its side to get from point A to point B. But yeah, you'll learn more about that in one of the future episodes. So if you want to learn how to make that game, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you when we start making that. But enjoy the rest of your day or your weekend, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.